There was a time when Infosys used to do all its meetings in the Belvedere Hotel, and believe me or not, it's an old person's preside. You have to go through security checks. And then, of course, Vishal Sikka happened to the company, and look where they are. So this gets really cool. Is this a Vishal Sikka impact?
Oh my God. No, I mean, we have always been big in Davos, and this year we wanted to do it somewhat differently. And normally this is a furniture shop.
Yeah, I know.
When you enter Davos, it's the first thing that you see. And all the Indian leaders who are here, they have been coming to me and saying how proud they feel. I was very moved by that. Mr. Bajaj came in the other day, and Chanda and many other Indian leaders have been here, and they were telling us about the fact that it makes them feel really good.
You may be a little modest, but I can say this is the Vishal Sikka effect, and I'm going to leave it at that. So this is the Vishal Sikka effect that you can see on Infosys, a company that's gaining in quarter after quarter and perhaps also turning a lot cooler. But let's, on a very serious note,
by the way, you can see the Mysore campus.
I can actually, and we're going to shoot some parts of it. It's a really cool campus. I mean, they've actually got buildings where Infosys comes out if you take an aerial view. So we're going to take all of that in just a bit. But I want to first talk to you about, on a more serious note, here at the WEF, and I know you've been talking a lot about it. They've said that technology will essentially result in job losses of about 5 million over the next 5 years. Is this again one of those predictions that are usually made, or is there really ground to it?
No, there is technology always ends up improving people's productivity and amplifies people. So there is a sense that I think the way we should read that is that 5 million of the current jobs will go away. But 5 years from now, or whenever that effect happens, we'll have created many new jobs as a result of technology, as a result of new innovations. I mean, we have a robot here serving beer inside.
We shot him. We shot the robot. I don't know, him or whatever.
Yeah, it is made by our friends at KUKA, and we have written some software for it, and it pours the perfect German glass of beer.
At 45 degrees angle, that's what I said on camera. I said beer is poured on 45 degrees angle, that's what's happening here.
Yeah, that's the German way. Yes. And but if you just look at that, you could say, oh, this robot is going to take away the beer pourer's job. But on the other hand, the people who created the robot, the people who install and implement the robot, those jobs got created. So my sense is that in the macro sense, in the global sense, there is no limit to human creativity. There is no limit to our imagination, our ability to innovate. As long as we have the ability to educate people in the skills of tomorrow, we will be okay. So I don't think that there is anything particularly dire about this time.
I'm glad you say that, because even in your speech today, you did say that the disruption can be addressed by imparting skills, and which is why I want to ask you, at Infosys and the kind of things that you involve yourself in, is retraining and education key to all of this because of what you said?
It has always been there. Mr. Murthy always talked about learnability, the ability to learn as our key ability. And that has always been the case. And if you just look at over the last 15 months, we have done significant improvements in the way that we teach. We have started teaching people design thinking. We have by now trained more than 71,000 Infoscions on design thinking. We have created curriculums in AI and data science and so forth, because we believe that automation is something we need to create, not something that we need to be afraid of. And we have also improved our tooling, our infrastructure for teaching itself. So the ability to teach is something that is very, very core to our company, and that will continue to be the case.
I'm glad you mentioned design thinking, and which is why my next question, does design thinking and zero distance, those modules that you speak about, how has that impacted business and the productivity outcomes? Because that is really the ultimate goal, isn't it?
The impact of those things on the business, on the revenue so far is very, very small. It is, last quarter we saved about 1,100 people because of automation, which is a little bit less than 1% of our workforce. But the impact on people's morale has been huge. I see. Last 4 weeks I've been in India, going around our different DCs, and there is a very strong sense of enthusiasm and passion that you see in the employees.
They're also turning cooler and younger, just like Vishal Sikka would want them to be. But, I must ask you this question. When we talk about digital, what we are essentially seeing is that the consulting firms, McKinsey and Bain perhaps, are taking some part of the business, and the cloud providers are taking the rest. How are companies like yourselves and how are companies in that space like yourselves going to protect that turf? Is that an area of concern?
I mean, look, everything that we do is digital. This is all digital.
That's right, yes.
And that term is a very abused kind of a term. I have always said that everything that we do is digital. We write software for digital computers. Where it is having an impact is, of course, in the more and more parts of the physical world are turning into digital things. Like, for example, the work that we do with GE around
That's right.
the Internet of Things, or construction of digital twins of physical things and so forth. So those are huge opportunity areas for us. So the way we look at it is we bring automation to the mainstream business as much as possible, to infrastructure management, to L2, L3, L1 support, and service desk, those kinds of things. And whatever bandwidth we save as a result of automation, we channel that towards innovation, towards new things, towards new experiences and new kinds of applications. You know, I mean, we have one of the exhibits that we have here is the virtual reality work that we have done together with Carnegie Mellon.
That's right.
And that is, it's amazing. I mean, when you look at that, you
You
realize...
actually caught me looking at the moon in there when I put those on.
Yeah, that's a little
Yes,
Easter egg
yes,
in there.
yes.
Yeah, that is and you look at this, it is awesome. We have, our team worked very hard to create that non-jarring, immersive virtual reality experience. And thousands of applications of virtual reality can be imagined and can be constructed and delivered. So I see this all as, in general, a good thing.
You know, I must ask you that you are going to have your annual strategy meeting very soon. What is the focus of that meeting going to be? You spoke about organizational changes earlier and you did implement some of those. Are we going to see round 2 happen?
Scaling up. We have seen the early success of the work on education. We have seen the early success of the work on initiatives like Zero Distance and Zero Bench. We have seen early success of automation and innovation, in particular Aikido. Now it is this time that is in front of us is to bring this to a larger scale. And that is what it's all about. And I always say we are fortunate that we are a company where, by and large, our ability to succeed in the times ahead is up to us. And it's not dependent so much on outside factors. And so it is all about execution.
You know, people are going back to saying that you're once again going to become the darling of the markets, you're going to regain your bellwether status and all of that. I'm going to stay away from the cliches, but ask you a question. Are you in that sweet spot today where your engines, like a sales, strategy and execution, are firing at all cylinders?
No, not even close. We still have a long way to go. But I mean, it has been a good beginning and a good start to this transformation journey. But we are nowhere near where we want to be.
You know, you recently became a part of this whole open artificial intelligence at a global forum. The larger question there is that artificial intelligence is being seen, with a lot of suspicion. Not too many people know what's going to happen with it. What is your own take of this? Obviously, our lives are going to change with what is going to happen. If a robot is going to pour me beer, my life is going to change. But on a serious note, artificial intelligence will change our lives. What is your take on that?
I think that people are,
because there are ethical aspects of artificial intelligence that have been.
There are ethical aspects of every technology. There are ethical aspects of nuclear technology and guns and wireless, and the AI is the next evolution of a long chain of technologies that have amplified people's ability. And if you see it that way, it is going to be a very good thing. I think this time around we are particularly threatened by it because these particular kinds of technologies seem to go after the white-collar jobs or the knowledge work jobs. But I think that as long as we have the access and the ability to teach people the skills of tomorrow and exercise our creativity, I am not concerned about it. I think that AI will be yet another great step in the long history of technologies that ended up improving humanity.
Vishal, I must ask you at this stage, because there has been so much written and said about job losses on account of this, and you beautifully put it that for every job that's lost, there is some that's being created in this world today. But are IT companies like yourselves, and you're really the big hires on campuses, an Infosys, a TCS, a Wipro, will you continue to flock IT campuses going forward?
The degree to which you hire and so forth will change, obviously, as it has changed over the years. And we will, as we get more and more precision on this, we will be obviously talking to you and to the media and to the financial analysts. But obviously we will continue to hire people, and that is not going to change. Even if you look at our aspiration of 2020, that means that at 20 billion revenue and $80,000 revenue per employee, there is still more than 250,000 employees.
That's right.
So the number of people that we bring in will continue to be there, and it may vary in size and scale and so forth. But the bigger picture is, once again, that there is no limit to people's ability to get wonderful jobs.
You know, the reason why I ask you this question is, and I'm going to wrap this up in this really, really cold Davos evening, is really because, you know, this is going to have a domino effect. I mean, there is an industry that has come up because of the hiring that you guys do, whether it's the engineering colleges or whether it's the facility management and things like that. So this is going to have a domino effect, your decision of hiring either less or more.
Yeah, of course. And I think that if you look at automation and the rate at which we hire, clearly I think one can expect that it will slow down a little bit, because just going from roughly 190,000 employees, 195,000 employees that we are at right now to 250,000 by that model, that rate of growth is slower than the rate of growth that has been the case in the past. But nonetheless, that is still 60,000 more people than we have today. So I think that what the effect on that remains to be seen. But I don't think it is such a big deal that colleges have to start shutting down or anything like that.
You know, just after your results this quarter, they said Infy is finally getting its mojo back. Is sleep easy to come by now?
Well, you know, sleep is one luxury that I don't have. I wish that I could sleep a little bit longer at night, but it is incredibly exciting, you know. And I look at the spirit in the people here. When I came in here day before yesterday, I noticed that we had all these amazing things, but we didn't have a 3D printer. So I don't know if you guys saw the 3D printer.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
That came up here within 24 hours. Within 24 hours in Davos, they managed to get a 3D printer from Zurich and so on. So,
Yes.
and you can print basically anything you can think
That's
of.
right, yeah. It's been fascinating to speak to you this evening, and of course very fascinating to see what Infosys is doing. Thank you very much for sparing our time and speaking to us right here in Davos. Here's a man who says sleep is difficult to come by and long hours of it, but he's really changing things at Infosys and perhaps in turn changing our lives of how we know them.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.